Hey guys. This is part 2 of What If Naruto Was in Bloodborne. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 4, The Ninja Team. Naruto was confused about why a book on metallurgy would be talking about stones named after blood until he read further, and saw it meant stones made of blood that had crystallized from creatures with a lot of iron in their blood. The blonde boy quickly realized that was not normal, and the author seemed to realize this as the book continued to state it was only known to happen in the ruined depths of the old civilization. That there was no name given for that place, or the civilization, wasn't even surprising to Naruto anymore. He took it in stride and continued reading to find out how to extract bloodstone from creatures he killed if they would have any. The information was grisly and detailed, but he read through it to find out why the book on metallurgy thought it was so important. Bloodstones could be used to make iron weaponry harder and sharper. That was fairly useful, Naruto had to admit. They could also be used to carve imprints for blood gems, whatever those were. The boy kept reading to see if those were listed. He had to skim past some techniques for applying different sized bloodstones to different kinds of weapons before he found another mention of the gems, though. Blood gems were like an advanced form of bloodstone that could be slotted into a weapon imprinted for it to grant it a number of effects, including increased sharpness, hardness, make it heavier, make it lighter somehow, channel electricity through it, or set the blade on fire. Must have something to do with chakra. Naruto muttered, doubting his own words even as he said them. He looked at his weapon again and frowned when he noticed it already had imprints, but they weren't carved out. The boy checked his book again. There were 4 different shapes for imprints, and weaponsmiths were encouraged to get the outline ready during the crafting process so the weapon could be more swiftly finished later. Naruto sighed and checked the outlines of the imprints in his blade: radial, waning, and triangle. One of each except for round. He wondered if he could add more later and checked the book again. More than 3 imprints ruined the structural integrity of the iron, destroying the weapon regardless of how much crystallized old blood is strengthening it. So, bloodstones, carve out the imprints, blood gems. Naruto listed off the things he needed to find and do next time he got the chance to go exploring. He put the book down. He hadn't even gotten to touch the one on engineering. Naruto was glad he didn't pick up the engineering book. He was already late to orientation. Iruka gave him a stern look. Naruto-kun, glad you could join us, he said. I slept in. Naruto excused lamely as he took a seat, ignoring the whispers of the other students. The Chunin shook his head and sighed before he continued his speech about responsibility and discipline. He added some words about promptness that Naruto was pretty sure had not been in the first draft, but wasn't going to point that out. Finally, Iruka began to announce the cells. Each team tended to have 2 male shinobi and a kunoichi as well as the jonin commander. Mostly due to the fact that more guys were interested in being ninja, the few girls that were there mostly seemed more interested in one of the boys, Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto glanced at him. The dark-haired boy was rich and a brooding orphan, so the blonde supposed it was typical the girls were interested in him. Darkly, Naruto realized that technically made them gold diggers, but he wasn't stupid enough to voice that thought. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts by his name. Cell 7 will consist of Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, the pink-haired girl slumped, and Sasuke Uchiha. The young kunoichi immediately cheered as a few other kunoichi genin glared at her. Iruka continued, but Naruto was distracted again. Normally he'd be happy to have Sakura on his team, but he was going through some stuff and was pretty sure there was no way dating was on the table as he currently was. After orientation was done and Iruka congratulated them all yet again, he let them go to lunch with instructions to return and meet their jonin sensei. However, as soon as the Chunin was gone, more of the class seemed interested in Naruto. Where did you get that thing? What kind of weapon is that? I thought you failed. I heard he died. Performing a bunshin? No, from some other thing. Did you kill someone to graduate? The last question had Naruto's head spinning and he shook his head. I just did some extra credit, and I made this weapon, he excused, the lie coming more easily the more he leaned into it. You made it? Sasuke sounded incredulous. Yeah, funny how we aren't ever graded on crafting weapons. Naruto retorted sarcastically, excusing his terrible grades in a way. That's because most shinobi don't craft their own weapons. Ino pointed out. The male blonde wondered why the girl was bringing that up when her family owned a flower shop and worked with the torture and interrogation department. Puppeteers do. Sakura pointed out, anything to one-up her rival Ino. So, was making the weapon the extra credit? Kiba asked. He was still pretty sure the blonde boy had killed someone to graduate. Akamaru smelled human blood this time, and normally that constituted a being locked up, not awarded with a Hittite and a pat on the back. No. Naruto answered honestly. Sprinkling in the truth sometimes would make the white lies more believable. Seeing as they weren't going to leave him alone, the blonde decided to just leave himself. Rushing off to avoid further questions was probably suspicious, but he needed to get out there. The blonde sighed to himself once he was alone. Hiding his new secrets was going to be hard. At least the adults would excuse it as QB weirdness. Maybe he could pull that card and tell his team about the kitsune if they noticed something that wouldn't be otherwise able to be explained. Naruto decided to get ramen at Ichiraku for lunch. He hadn't even noticed he skipped breakfast. His steps faltered as he realized he had not eaten last night either. He'd spent the evening learning how to better hunt and collecting blood to strengthen his fine motor skills. Then he'd spent the rest of the night until morning reading. When was the last time Naruto actually ate? Yesterday morning before going to get his picture taken for identification. He listened, but his stomach didn't growl. He did not need to sleep technically, so could he perhaps last longer without getting hungry too? Naruto decided not to dwell on it, and rushed to eat as much ramen as he could before the time to meet his new Jonin sensei arrived. Tucci the chef seemed concerned about him, but congratulated him on graduating and becoming a genin. The blonde wasn't sure whether or not he needed to eat, but given how his body reacted to depriving it of sleep regardless of need, he decided he should probably remember to eat. He was grateful to Tucci and his daughter Ayam for not asking about his weapon. Naruto was glad there were more silent looks than questions when he returned, but after half an hour he was alone with Sasuke and Sakura, the other two genin of his cell. Their jonin still hadn't arrived. The blonde tapped his left index finger on his desk as he stared at the clock. Naruto had always been impatient, but now there was something in his blood that urged him to constantly do something. The only way he could even force his body to rest was to do things in the dream, not that he was sure how much his immortal body actually needed rest. Dying was a form of rest, the blonde supposed, but immediately shook that thought from his head. Thinking of death as taking a nap was probably bad for his mental health, and he did not need that to get worse, well, any worse than it already had. An hour later, with no jonin and the blonde lost patience, his eyes darted around the room to look for something to do. He considered playing a prank before he decided to practice his chakra control again. He wasn't sure he wanted his team to see him practicing a kenjutsu though, so he attempted to make a pair of bunshin again. Another hour later and Naruto's arms were sore and he was getting tired of making terrible bunshin after terrible bunshin. You're going to exhaust yourself before sensei arrives, Sakura pointed out. Naruto raised an eyebrow. They're just bunshin, he said dryly. But your chakra control is awful, so you use way more than you need for everything, right? Sakura asked rhetorically as she took on a lecturing tone. Chakra is a blend of physical and mental energies, remember. Practicing ninjutsu to get your chakra control up for it is all well and good, but it'd be way more efficient to do the leaf balancing exercise. Naruto had completely forgotten about the leaf balancing exercise despite having been given it as a punishment often enough. That's a chakra control exercise? He asked with a raised eyebrow. Sakura rolled her eyes. Duh, she answered. You've seriously been training all your ninjutsu just by doing them? No wonder your chakra control is so bad, you must exhaust yourself constantly. She mused. Naruto blinked. That one probably was kitsune weirdness, and not old blood weirdness, because he had never gotten particularly tired from practicing his henj or bunshin, unless he actually passed out. Naruto recalled seeing plant life in the dream and made a mental note to practice the leaf balancing exercise more, and also to spend more blood on arcanes since being smarter really was useful. Soon enough after this revelation, the door opened to reveal a silver-haired man dressed in shinobi attire. with a flak vest and his hatayite covering his left eye, his hair spiked straight up. "Well, good to see you kids getting along," he mused as his lone eye traveled over them. Naruto noticed the man look at Nokojuraboko. "Meet me on the roof for introductions," the Jonin ordered before he disappeared. Naruto thought it was ironic that his new sensei had similar gloves to himself. "Now, I'd like you all to tell us a little bit about yourselves," the Jonin began once they were all on the roof, not far from a rooftop orchid. "What do you mean?" Sakura asked, confused by the request. The Jonin considered the question. "You know, the usual. Your favorite thing, what you hate most, dreams, ambitions, hobbies, things like that," he explained with a shrug. Naruto frowned. "Help us out, why don't you go first?" he asked as he narrowed his eyes at the man. Sakura nodded. "That's right, you're a complete stranger to us. A mystery," she pointed out, hugging her knees. The Jonin's eye glanced again to Naruto's holstered weapon. "Me? Well, my name is Kakashi Hatake." He began his introduction lazily. "I'm the kind of person who doesn't like talking about his likes or dislikes. My dreams for the future are none of your business, but anyway, I have lots of hobbies." He finished in a bored tone as he rested his chin on his right palm and his right elbow in his left palm. "He said a lot, but all we learned was his name," Sakura complained quietly, mood dour from the exchange. Kakashi decided to ignore that comment. "Why don't you go first, Blondie?" he asked with a pointed look at Naruto. The boy jolted. He wasn't sure why he was nervous, he just had to introduce himself. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki," he began as he fiddled with his hatayite, leaving out that he wasn't certain if that name still counted after dying twice. "I like ramen, crafting weaponry," he continued, deciding if he was this deep in that cover he might as well lean hard into it, "and training. I hate the time it takes ramen to cook." He hesitated. The topic of dreams brought that place to mind. "Your dreams for the future?" Kakashi prompted with a raised eyebrow. "I will be Hokage," Naruto said firmly. "That's not a dream though, it's a goal," he added. Kakashi hummed thoughtfully. "Why don't you go next, Sourpuss?" he asked the Uchiha. Sasuke glared. "My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I don't like anything in particular. I hate a certain man, and my goals are to kill a certain someone and restore my clan." He listed off mechanically, clipped and short. Kakashi looked pointedly at Sakura. "My name is Sakura Haruno," the green-eyed girl introduced. "My favorite thing is, well, it's not a thing but a person, a boy. The boy is," she glanced at Sasuke. Moving on, my dream is," she looked at Sasuke again and blushed. "I hate Naruto," she added plainly, and the blonde was taken aback by surprise at how calmly she said that. "My hobbies are," she trailed off as she glanced at Sasuke again. Kakashi found it a shame that young girls were more interested in love than ninjutsu. "Well, I suppose we understand each other at least a little bit better now," he mused and ignored the glares he got from the three genin. "Formal training begins tomorrow," he finished. Naruto perked up. "What kind of training?" he asked curiously. "Survival exercises," Kakashi answered plainly. Naruto frowned in confusion along with his other two teammates. "Why would that be a mission?" Sakura asked, speaking up to voice her own confusion. "Our training days were filled with survival missions," she pointed out. Sasuke didn't admit it, but he was just as confused as his new team. Kakashi shook his head. "This isn't your typical practice, you'll be surviving against me," he explained. "What kind of practice will it be then?" Naruto asked, wanting it spelled out for him already. Kakashi just stifled a laugh in response, something that made Sasuke tense up with nerves. "What's so funny, Kakashi-sensei?" Sakura asked, growing a bit nervous herself. "Oh, nothing," Kakashi lied. "It's just that if I told you, you'd chicken out," he explained. Naruto took offense to that. "Why would we chicken out?" he asked with a frown. He was pretty confident nothing should scare him anymore. Kakashi rested his face on his palm as he leaned forward slightly to give the three genin a cold stare. "Of the 27 members of your graduating class, only 9 will actually be accepted as genin," he explained. "The other 18 will return to the academy for remedial training, so this test has a 66% failure rate," he finished. Sakura was visibly nervous and Sasuke tensed up. To the surprise of the Jonin, though, Naruto didn't seem concerned in the slightest. "So we have a night to prepare?" he asked. He had a training method that he knew worked wonders, and he wasn't normal. Kakashi was impressed by the guts of the blonde, if nothing else. "Well, you're confident, I'll give you that," he acknowledged, subtly implying he could tell how shaken the other two genin were. "In any event, we'll be conducting this test tomorrow morning on a practice field so I can evaluate each of your skills and weaknesses. Bring all of your ninja tools and weapons, and don't eat breakfast unless you like throwing up," he explained before pulling out 3 handouts. "The details are in these, don't be late," he ordered as he handed the genin the details. Naruto practiced throwing shuriken with his left hand at a tree in the dream, making sure to collect them when done. He was pretty sure he lost a few, though. His accuracy was terrible. Maybe when his arcane improved he would be able to find them, but for now he needed more fine motor skills if he wanted to pass the survival test Kakashi had in mind. Thankfully, the blonde remembered to have dinner before going into the dream this time. He checked the survival guides in the shack, figuring any knowledge in them might help. However, there was nothing about shelter or food gathering. It was all about harvesting blood, fortifying a safe location to return to the dream, and how to detect the presence of different beasts. Naruto had already figured out that webs meant spiders were near, but he made a mental note to avoid any moving light sources since it was apparently usually very bad. He blinked as he read something about gaunt women with iron bells calling nightmare beasts into reality. The similarity to how the silver bell allowed him to enter the dream was not lost on him. The blonde wanted to improve himself, however, and return to the operating theater through the tombstone. He needed more blood if he wanted to be able to put up a real fight. By morning, Naruto barely had time to shower and get the blood off when he returned to the waking world on the surface. He needed to get himself a watch of some kind and hope it worked in the dream too. Of course, he had no time to wash his jacket properly, so he just put on clean orange pants and a simple black undershirt. Naruto frowned at his reflection. He didn't think his clothes looked bad, but if he was going to be running around outdoors, he'd like something to cover his arms. Now that he thought about it, the jacket was technically protective clothing in a way. The boy quickly pulled on his arm warmers, grabbed his weapons, and rushed to meet his team. He didn't even get time to test out his newly fine motor skills, but he supposed it couldn't have been much. He'd only killed a dozen or so of the desiccated humanids. "You're late," Sakura informed Naruto when he arrived, her arms crossed. "You're lucky our sensei is too. Honestly, I thought Irika-sensei said shinobi are prompt," she grumbled with a shake of her head. "He's probably just waiting for Naruto to show up so he can scold him for being late," Sasuke suggested dryly. Hours later, the Uchiha was proven wrong. "You're late," Sakura snapped at the Jonin. "A black cat crossed my path," Kakashi excused. "Then I helped an old lady cross the road and had to take the long way so I wouldn't walk under a ladder," he continued dryly. "I'm stealing every excuse you use whenever I sleep in," Naruto informed his new sensei dryly. Kakashi looked surprised by that bold declaration before he seemed to smile under his mask. "Well now, bold of you to assume you'll be sticking around long enough to pick up all my excuses," he mused, not denying they were excuses at all. "You don't even know the test. Is that Nokajiri the reason for your confidence?" he asked. Naruto's right hand automatically went to the handle, a little bit. He confessed. "It's a good weapon," he insisted. "I heard you made it," Kakashi said. His tone gave away he did not believe it. The blonde tried to recall if he'd mentioned that yesterday, but he was pretty sure it had not been said in front of the Jonin, at least not while Naruto was aware the man is looking. "If he made it, I'm amazed it works," Sasuke said sarcastically. "Now what's the test?" he demanded to know, more interested in that. Kakashi pulled out an alarm clock and 2 small silver bells. Naruto's heart skipped a beat at the sight and sound of them, but they were different to his bell. They were rounded, designed to be worn, unlike his small-handled bell which was open. "You have until noon to get a bell from me. For extra motivation, whoever fails to get a bell misses out on Sensei's lovingly crafted bento, and they miss out on having a sensei," Kakashi explained. "Whoever doesn't get a bell gets tied to a training stump while the other 2 enjoy their lunch, then will be sent back to the academy for remedial training." Sakura frowned as her 2 teammates eyed the bells. "But Kakashi-sensei, there are only 2 bells," she pointed out. Very astute, Kakashi retorted dryly. One of you will fail this test and be sent back to the academy. Hence the fail rate. He explained. Sakura paled, too panicked by the implication to double-check the math on what he said yesterday. The fact her stomach was growling did not help her think. Sasuke just looked determined to begin, while Naruto seemed focused, so Kakashi continued, You'll need to come at me with the intent to kill if you want to succeed, don't hold back. He said and noticed they looked hesitant. I'm a jonin, even working together you kids would struggle to actually hurt me. He added with a mocking scoff, hiding a hint in his words. Naruto just looked angered by the implication he didn't stand a chance and unholstered his weapon. In the blink of an eye Kakashi had his arm in a hold. Easy now, I didn't say start yet. Kakashi drawled lazily, but that's some good killing instinct, I think I might approve of you. He said before he let go of the blonde. Begin? He said. Sasuke and Sakura were gone in an instant, impressive hiding spots, and they even thought to shift positions after breaking line of sight. Naruto didn't even bother. You know this is a test, right? Show your abilities as a ninja? Kakashi questioned. He'd heard stealth was actually one of Naruto's strong suits. The blonde had a relaxed stance. You know where the other two are though anyway, right? He asked calmly. Kakashi was surprised and nodded. So, this test isn't stealth-based. In other words, the boy continued with a grin, stealth is optional for this mission. Then the boy tossed a single shuriken left-handed. Kakashi was not aware the blonde genin was ambidextrous but was still able to easily dodge. Naruto charged and lifted his weapon up over his left shoulder. He flicked it open as he swung the cleaver edge down and to the right. A log hit the ground in two. Very good killing instinct, you didn't even hesitate. Kakashi managed to sound both impressed and reproachful one after the other. Kawarimi no Jutsu, an academy basic you should know. Once mastered you can get out of danger without your opponent suspecting a thing. The Jonin lectured. He was supposed to be their sensei after all. Naruto turned to the man as he spoke. He snapped his blade shut. Yeah, well, I'm the first shinobi who is going to use Nokojuro Jutsu, he said, making up a new name for his variation of Bukujutsu. If Bojutsu and Kenjutsu got their own names, why not his weapon? Kakashi raised an eyebrow. I doubt you're the first to use a Nokojiri as a weapon, although I confess I imagine those were most likely all cases of improvising a weapon rather than the full adaptation of the kanai or kama you seem to be going for. He mused, although, that thing can hardly be called a normal Nokojiri. He added dryly. Nokojiriboko is currently one of a kind, Naruto said confidently before he moved towards the Jonin. Something about his stride raised Kakashi's hackles. The man was surprised to have such an instinctive subconscious fear response to the young blonde. He worried it may be the kitsune's influence. Kakashi palmed a kunai with his right hand. I don't carry much but the basics these days, but I suppose this lesson can be on Bukujutsu for now, he decided as his left hand reached into his tool pouch and pulled out a small orange book. Naruto had thought the man was pulling out some other weapon or tool, so he paused in surprise. You read Aika Aika? He asked. He should not have, the title was not on the cover. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. You read Aika Aika? He repeated back incredulously. Naruto shuffled his right foot nervously. Well, and no, I mean, it was just sort of sitting there written in hiragana. You had access to a copy of Aika Aika written in hiragana? Kakashi asked incredulously before there was an awkward silence. Did you like it? He asked to break it. I didn't read it, Naruto denied. I just checked what the title was because it was there. He insisted. He had not indeed actually had time to fully read it, but he was sure he did not want to. Kakashi chuckled. Well, you're still a bit young to appreciate it, he said as he opened the book and started to read. Naruto stared at the book. Why are you reading now? He asked. Because I want to see what happens next. Naruto's eye twitched. I'll show you what happens next, he growled before he palmed a kunai with his left hand and moved at Kakashi. Again his stride even in the peripherals of his vision gave the Jonin conniptions. The man realized what it was. While the stride was not overly fast or long, it was measured and predatory. There was an implied swiftness there that the boy didn't display until he deemed himself close enough and suddenly crossed the yard with a low leap as he unfolded his weapon at the Jonin. Naruto's sandals slid across the ground from how low and quick the leap was, and the extending blade was fast. Kakashi dodged instead of attempting to parry with a kunai. He stepped back to avoid the blade, then sidestepped around the follow-up swing. On the third swing, the Jonin knocked the weapon off course with a hit from his kunai and made to trip the genin with a sweep. To his surprise, Naruto rolled to his feet as his weapon snapped shut and his left hand struck out to throw the kunai at the man. Kakashi bat the thrown blade aside before he stepped back to avoid Naruto's follow-up swing, but the shifting form of the strange weapon was hard to predict, and the extending blade almost caught his bells. They jingled at his waist from coming so close to being hit by the tricky weapon. Naruto didn't let up the pressure despite the lack of results. His breathing was even despite his exertion, his expression in eerie calm, and Kakashi realized the boy wasn't truly looking at him, not directly at least. The Jonin suppressed a sigh. His next dodge brought him behind the blonde so fast the boy lost track of him. Kunai and book held between hands clasped in the tiger sign. "Get out of there, Naruto! He's going to destroy you!" Sakura cried out. Kakashi was impressed both that the girl recognized the seal from her hiding spot, and that she gave away said hiding spot to give Naruto a warning. Too late, he sang with a smirk under his mask, "Kanohigakur Hiden Taijutsu Oji, Senin Garoshi." The Jonin announced as he thrust forward with the sign and launched the genin through the air with a rather rough poke to the butt that had the young Uzumaki giving a shriek that couldn't have been further from masculine. Sakura felt stupid for giving away her position to warn Naruto of such a stupid attack, and Sasuke's eye twitched as he became convinced he was surrounded by idiots. Kakashi giggled to himself as he returned to reading his book after Naruto splashed down in a nearby river. The blonde genin was less than amused by what Kakashi had done. He decided he probably shouldn't test how long he could hold his breath though. With the way his body worked lately, he'd probably accidentally suffocate to avoid drowning. Naruto dragged himself up out of the river and glared at Kakashi as he stepped towards the man. The Jonin didn't look up or give away how strange it was for Naruto to have the stride of a seasoned umbu. Instead, he waited for the blonde to attack and let the extending weapon strike a log. The saw teeth dug in and the boy was stuck with it for a moment. Naruto frowned at the slight design flaw, but snapped the weapon shut with a flick of his arm that nearly tore the weapon from his grip before he pulled the log off. Namely by stepping on the log and yanking his weapon up out of it. Sakura was already moving as silently as swiftly as possible to change her position and come up with a plan. Unaware of this, Naruto looked around for Kakashi, but the Jonin didn't reveal himself this time. Sasuke kept his position as he looked for the man as well, wondering if the man would be testing them one at a time. Naruto noticed a glint on the ground and saw one of the bells. He guessed he must have gotten it loose earlier. The blonde hadn't been aware he pulled it off, but he grinned as he scanned the ground. Then with too quick movement his weapon folded open before it snapped shut, tearing into the ground. Sasuke caught the movement but didn't understand it until Kakashi had the blonde pinned from behind. "Well now, aren't you observant? With that weapon you're probably the most physically threatening, but you can't beat a Jonin like that," he lectured as he picked up the bell, dropping another hint. Naruto frowned. "You're not just skilled," he muttered, "you're strong and experienced. Even though you're holding back, you aren't holding back enough for us to actually pass." He continued. The Jonin was silent. "We're not meant to come at you alone," he realized. Kakashi was floored. According to test scores, Naruto was a dunce. According to behavior and psychiatric reports, the boy was emotionally stunted, so the level of insight the boy displayed out of nowhere surprised him. He didn't think his hints were that much of a giveaway, that one had actually been for Sasuke. Shuriken flew at the Jonin and struck a log. Naruto stood up as Sasuke hopped down. "All right, from the way his shoulders stiffened, you're actually right." The Uchiha grudgingly confessed. "I don't really get it. Seems like a cruel no-win situation. But if you distract him, I can get us those bells." Naruto frowned. "What about Sakura-chan?" he asked. Sasuke sighed. "I honestly doubt she could help. A week ago I doubt you would have been able to help," he said bluntly, showing exactly what he thought of his teammates' abilities. Naruto supposed his sudden growth was a little suspicious. He should be careful of that, and try to make it seem more gradual than it was. They heard a scream. "Sakura!" Sasuke grumbled under his breath. "What are you doing?" he snapped when the blonde started running. "He won't kill her, but he made her scream to lure us in. This is our chance." Naruto said quickly as he ran in the direction he heard the scream. Sasuke was baffled that Naruto's response to figuring out it was a trap was to spring it, but he followed the blonde. If he could at least use the other genin as a distraction, then he could pass. He wanted to test himself against the Jonin personally, but he had seen how surprised the man was when the blonde voiced the teamwork idea. So the Uchiha decided to go with it. He needed to pass. They ran into Kakashi before Sakura, Genjutsu, one of 3 primary ninpo. Sakura-chan seemed to be pretty weak to it, he said lazily as he turned the page of his little orange book. Sasuke lowered his stance and Naruto walked towards the Jonin. The Uchiha wasn't actually sure what to make of the stride his blonde teammate had in a fight. It was almost like a fluid stance. It somehow gave off a threatening aura. The young Uchiha tried not to be reminded of him. He had a test to pass, so thinking about him would only distract the boy. He suppressed it with a deep breath and palmed a pair of shuriken in each hand as his teammate attacked. Sasuke was proud of his abilities with shuriken jutsu, but like he feared, even working together he couldn't hit the bells. He even tried bouncing the thrown blades off each other in mid-air to change trajectory to no avail, although to be fair he wasn't very good at that yet. "Get back!" Sasuke ordered as he began to weave hand signs. Naruto glanced back as he finished his latest swing, frowning at the fact he missed again, but snapped his weapon shut and dashed backwards with a low leap. Kakashi recognized those hand signs. There's no way he has enough chakra. The man muttered, surprised further when the boy revealed he did have enough chakra, and he breathed out a massive ball of fire at the man. "You have to teach me how to do that," Naruto demanded. "No way." Sasuke refused immediately. He frowned when he noticed Kakashi missing. He glanced around. The Jonin wasn't on either side, behind, or above either. "Below." Kakashi confirmed the Uchiha's train of thought as he dragged both boys under the earth, leaving only their heads visible. Somehow he accomplished this simultaneously, and Sasuke soon saw he did this using a physical bunshin, ninjutsu, doton no jutsu like that used chakra to manipulate the earth, katon no jutsu like your gokaki used chakra to create fire, and kage bunshin creates a physical bunshin that. "Hey, that's a kinjutsu," Naruto interrupted. "No fair," he argued. "They were called forbidden, and here his sensei was just using it like it was fine." Kakashi took a moment to realize why Naruto thought that Kage Bunshin was Kinjutsu. No, Taiju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu is a Kinjutsu because the chakra used can kill most people. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu is an A-rank ninjutsu, he clarified. "Wait, so I don't need to hide that I can use Kage Bunshin?" Naruto asked wide-eyed at the prospect. Kakashi was surprised again. He had heard the boy had stolen the Fuin no Sho, but not that he had learned any ninjutsu from it. "Right, same hand seal," he muttered. "Don't make too many and be careful with it," he warned. Naruto tried to shrug, but his shoulders were underground, so he just nodded in agreement instead. "Can you let us up now?" he asked. "No," Kakashi said before both of him disappeared. Both were bunshin. "I blame you for this," Sasuke said dryly. It was too long before Sakura found them, then she fainted on seeing the 2 boys. They freed themselves before she woke up again, and not long after the alarm Kakashi reminded them of rang across the training ground. "Well, it seems like none of you got a bell," Kakashi mused from a nearby branch, revealing himself a bit too dramatically for Naruto's liking. "However, one of you did figure out the purpose of the test, and the other one followed through on his conclusion even if he didn't like it." The man continued and Sakura's stomach dropped. "Therefore, I will give you 3 one more chance. If you fail again, you should drop out of the ninja program entirely," he said sternly. "Sakura, I'm tying you to this post," he finished as he pulled out rope. "No fair," Sakura denied immediately. "You went down to a basic genjutsu and failed to recover in time to help your teammates," Kakashi pointed out bluntly. The rather harsh appraisal of her lack of contribution halted her struggles, and she was tied to the post. "You 2 eat your lunch. If you share with Sakura, you'll be taking her place and dropped from the program instead," he said before he left them alone. Naruto waited until he was gone, and immediately offered a sushi roll to Sakura. "What are you doing?" Sakura hissed. "I'm not hungry," Naruto said with a shrug. "I think he's gone anyway. We'll have a better chance if we're all fed too, you know," he insisted. Sakura glanced at Sasuke, who looked around before he nodded. I think you're clear, you should eat. He agreed before he began to eat himself. The pink-haired girl wanted the Uchiha to feed her, but her stomach growled and she grudgingly accepted the food. Thunder boomed as Kakashi returned in a cloud of smoke. You! The man exclaimed angrily, pass. He finished in a sing-song tone with a smile that gave the trio of genin mood whiplash. Chapter 5, Making Waves. Kakashi enjoyed the looks of stupor on his new students' faces. In the shinobi world, those who break the rules are considered trash, he began, but those who abandon their allies are less than that to me. He explained. This whole survival test was a personal test of character. Naruto asked, and the jonin nodded. Sasuke sighed with relief. The whole point, Kakashi began as Naruto took up his weapon and cut Sakura's ropes deftly. The jonin was a little annoyed but let the 50 ryo length of rope go, was to test if you could act calm under pressure in an unfair situation and act for the good of the mission as a whole. He explained. Naruto had not realized that much, he just thought they needed to work together because Kakashi wasn't holding back enough. He decided not to mention where his thought processes ended though, best to let his sensei think he was a team player. Do you see that stone? Kakashi asked, pointing his 3 students at a stone with names carved all over it. That's a stone where heroes have their names carved to remember them. My friends' names are all there. He explained, and while the blonde wanted to insist his name should be there, he held his tongue. This is the Kia Memorial. Every shinobi killed in action goes on this stone or another like it. Naruto supposed his name would never be on there then. So, we'll meet for team drills and our first mission same time tomorrow, Kakashi said suddenly before he turned to leave. Naruto handed his bento to Sakura. I'm going to go, see you guys tomorrow, he said with a forced smile and a wave. The other 2 genin of the newly formed Cell 7 waved back mutely, not sure what to make of their odd sensei or their odd teammate. Naruto had a proper lunch at Ichiraku's. He was sure ninja udon was healthy. It had all those weird things in it that tasted okay under the noodles. Plus Tucci always gave him narutomaki. Probably a joke about his name, but he liked them and fish was healthy, right? After that Naruto returned to his apartment. Although it was more of a safe place to temporarily leave his body while he went to the dream. It is nice to see you frequent this place, good Ryoshi. You seem to be finding your worth in the waking world. The doll greeted kindly. Naruto smiled in return. I passed my genin graduation exam, the second hidden one I guess, he told her as he got up. My sensei is a bit of a weirdo though. He added, hours late 2 days in a row, weird excuses. Put more emphasis on making sure we look after each other as a team than actually testing our abilities. I guess we must have done okay or he would have sent us back though. The doll nodded along as he spoke. I hope he teaches you the things you wish to know about being a shinobi, as I wish to help you become the best Ryoshi you can be. Naruto smiled at the kind words. Thanks, he said. He could almost forget the journal entries about how she was so kind to everyone who came to the dream, and would be so even if he mistreated her. Naruto spent some time exploring the dungeons before he returned to the surface through the dream. He was glad the sun wasn't setting yet, and set out to get himself a pocket watch. Maybe a new jacket too. However, he quickly found out that watches were far above his current budget. Even the cheap ones were a bit much. He still needed to eat. Okay, the jury was still out on if he actually needed to eat, but he wanted to eat, and he was not going to butcher the monsters in the dungeons and cook them. Neither the survival guide nor the journals made mention of that, so Naruto pushed the thought from his mind as he looked for an affordable jacket. He found one in multiple sizes, but instead of blue it had black trim and more of it. Which meant less orange, but it was still orange. Naruto-kun? A vaguely familiar voice caught his attention. The boy turned to meet the pale eyes of a girl from his graduating class who mostly left him alone. A form-covering jacket covered her upper body and her short dark hair was in a Heim cut. Oh, Naruto took a moment to recall her name. Hey, Hinata-chan. He greeted. He was pretty sure he was supposed to be polite with girls while it didn't matter as much with other guys. Hi. Hinata stammered in response, not meeting his eyes, not that he was trying to meet hers himself. Have you been okay? Did your team pass the secondary graduation test? She asked. Naruto smirked. Yeah, my sensei is kind of weird but I figured out his angle and passed his test earlier today. he explained proudly. Today? Hinata asked. Kurenai-sensei had us do it yesterday. She muttered and Naruto's eye twitched. Well, congratulations for passing, but I more meant that you seemed, that is to say you've been acting differently? Naruto knew he'd been noticed, but he wasn't sure what to say if he was called out. His first instinct was to blurt out he found out he had the kitsune sealed inside him to explain his weirdness, but he couldn't just jump right to using that excuse. Just took my training a bit more seriously lately, Naruto excused. I guess I stressed myself out making sure I'd finally pass. He lied. Hinata frowned. You must have been exhausted, she muttered, and the boy recalled when his eyes had deep dark bags under them. Hey, I'm tough, Naruto assured, puffing out his chest. I can handle a little stress, and I passed. He reminded her with a grin that wasn't entirely forced. Hinata blushed but managed to smile back. I should get home, she stammered before turning and retreating from the blonde genin, who cocked his head to the side as he wondered if anything he'd done might have alarmed her or given away what he was. Naruto turned back to the jacket that was similar to his currently blood-stained one, and he supposed it would do as a spare. He could afford one in his size. With that bought, he returned home, set his bloody clothes to wash, and pulled out the hiragana copy of Ika he'd retrieved from the dream. The blonde was curious what the big deal was and why Kakashi had read it even during a fight. He guessed it must just be less smutty than he initially expected if the jonin was comfortable reading it in public. He was swiftly proven wrong. He reads this in front of people, the blonde boy muttered numbly. It took until the blonde genin's clothes were clean for the boy to recover, and barely enough to set his clothes to dry. He held the orange book at arm's length as he eyed it. Sure, he invented Oiroku no Jutsu, but that was to defeat perverts, not to be one. Ignore the part where the blonde needed to peep on the woman's side of the public bathhouse to perfect his ninjutsu, and the fact he enjoyed doing so. Naruto never peeped without a good excuse, and research for a ninjutsu to defeat perverts was a good excuse no matter how much the women denied it. They were in denial, not him. Once Naruto's clothes finished drying, the boy was recovered from the shock of reading detailed and graphic descriptions of fellatio enough to take his clothes up to his apartment, hiding the book between them in the basket. Without a watch or portable clock of some kind, Naruto was hesitant to return to the dream, so he made himself an instant ramen dinner as he considered his options. He could just practice his ninjutsu in his apartment, but the blood guaranteed improvement. The blood improvement was also noticeably and unnaturally fast, so maybe Naruto was due for some normal training. The boy leaned out his window and plucked a leaf from a nearby branch he could barely reach. Naruto put the leaf on his pillow, had dinner, showered, dressed in his pajamas, and spent the night sitting on his bed practicing holding the leaf to his forehead with his chakra. Nokojiriboko was on the bed with him, within arm's reach just in case. Naruto decided he hated D-rank missions, but they paid money which he could use to get a cheap pocket watch to shove in his tool pouch. He blew off steam from being annoyed at the chores disguised as missions by using the dream to return to the depths. The desiccated husk felt his misplaced aggression. Down beneath Kanahigaku no Sato did Naruto find something odd, serrated kunai? He wondered, but he could see while they were indeed throwing blades they were not kunai. He vaguely recalled shuriken could take a shape similar, a more knife-like throwing blade. Naruto picked the 5 serrated blades up and put them in his shuriken holster. He decided he'd just research the journals when he found somewhere new to rest or returned. With that thought he checked his watch and realized he should hurry back, but he opened one more gate and silently stepped down the stone stairs to a second door. The blonde had not found a treasure room before. Unfortunately, it seemed to be occupied by a scorpion as large as the spider that killed Naruto that one time. The blonde reacted instantly to his fight or flight response. His Nokojiriboko unfolded to full length, and the cleaver side came down through striking stinger tail and into the face of the monstrous scorpion. Naruto's body didn't relax until he checked his corners, then he sent in a Kage Bunshin to check for traps. It found none even after doing things that would trigger traps, even opening the large golden chest. Hey, Oyabun, the Bunshin called, you may want to see this. Naruto walked up to it. He looked around at the golden chalices, urns, and chain necklaces. He realized sadly that he had no way to actually make any money on anything because he could not explain where he got any of it. Still, the boy looked in the chest and frowned at what his bunshin wanted him to see. Is that a gun? He asked bluntly. Looks like it. Naruto answered himself through his bunshin. He decided that was weird and dispelled it. Naruto knew what a gun was, logically anyway. They'd been invented from fireworks to help a Shigure keep up with samurai and shinobi, but failed spectacularly. They still saw use as a hunting tool and civil defense weapon, but no shinobi bothered with them, and the boy had no idea if samurai used them or not. The fact that they were a hunting tool stuck in Naruto's mind, and the boy picked it up. He decided to backtrack to the operating theater and see if the doll or the journals had anything to say about firearms. From what little the boy could tell, the pistol he had found was an older model than farmers used for defending livestock. A flintlock pistol, the doll explained when prompted, specially made to shoot quicksilver bullets and convert the blood of Ryoshi into makeshift bullets. She explained. Naruto decided he needed to learn how that worked, but before he could begin studying, the white humanoids returned and offered him a small bag. What is this? He asked as he crouched down to inspect the bag. A bag of quicksilver ammunition, treated in blood so as to be used with firearms like the one you found. The doll explained. Naruto was too jaded to be surprised or suspicious of the strange inhabitants of the dream by this point, so he just accepted the bag and put them in his tool pouch, along with his new pistol. With those put away, the blonde went up to the shack and began studying, looking for references on the firearms or quicksilver. He double-checked the metallurgy book and found something, but it bothered him. Quicksilver, or mercury, was toxic to most living creatures. Those administered by the old blood had natural defenses against such toxin, but their blood crystallized around the liquid metal so it could be used as bullets in specially made firearms. Well, that was absolutely horrifying. Naruto pulled out the bag and checked the bullets. They were an almost silver color with a red sheen to them. They seemed more like jewels than bullets. He decided to put them away and decide what to do with them later. There were only 7 of them. A week after graduating, Naruto was getting sick of D-rank missions. He'd gotten a lot stronger, literally too, as one of those nights he dedicated the blood he'd collected to strength. The doll explained blood tinge would make his use of firearms and other weapons that used blood more effective, but the idea made him uncomfortable. I want a real mission, Naruto demanded of the Hokage. He was stronger and more skilled than when he'd graduated a week ago, and he wanted to prove it. Naruto-kun, Iruka snapped, D-rank missions are real missions. They're to give genin like you time to build up your skills. He scolded. Naruto could appreciate that to a degree. His time in the ruins had indeed built up a lot of strength and skill. It even made him smarter. I don't need more time. I'm sick of chores. He snapped despite understanding the logic. Sasuke silently agreed but didn't show it, and Sakura just sighed at her teammates' antics. The Hokage looked at Kakashi, who shrugged ambivalently. Very well then, Hiruzen decided. Iruka-san, fetch the client for this mission. That should work nicely. He agreed, much to Cell 7's surprise. Iruka was surprised too, but he didn't argue with the leader of the village and left to get the man for the mission the Hokage had lifted up to him. The Chunin returned with an old, overweight, drunk man dressed in laborer's clothes complete with a cone straw hat. What's this? I hired ninja, right? I got a couple of brats and some woodcutter? He asked. Kakashi sighed. My genin may be inexperienced, but I'm on the mission too, the Jonin assured. The client eyed the 4 ninja. I am the super bridge builder Tazuna. Your mission is to protect me until I get home and finish my next super bridge. He introduced and explained, even if it costs your lives. He added darkly. Naruto couldn't resist a scoff. The others looked at him. We can handle some bandits, or money lenders. He excused his humor with sarcasm. Naruto made the swift and easy decision that he liked the outside of Konoha more than the underside. Clear blue skies and trees were far more scenic than stone ceilings and death traps. The blonde didn't even notice he was being uncharacteristically quiet as they walked. Kakashi noticed his blonde genin occasionally tracking small animals hidden in the brush with his head. It was impressive, but it was also strange. In a trained shinobi it would indicate a practiced ear. In someone as inexperienced as his student it indicated heightened senses on par with an Inuzuka using their clan hijitsu to mimic canine senses. Hatake had an affinity for canines themselves, And Kakashi did have a good sense of smell by default, but he could see that Naruto was noticing things before he did. "What's got you so excited and jumpy?" Tazuna asked the boy before taking a swig of his bottle, the label hidden by a brown bag. Naruto stiffened at the question as if accused of something. "Just my first time outside the walls," he excused. He was relatively sure that wasn't even technically a lie. Sakura turned to Tazuna. "We're taking you to Nami no Kuni, right, Tazuna-san?" she asked, her tone as curious as she was polite. The old man eyed her suspiciously. "Yeah, why?" he asked as he was in the process of taking another swig. The kunoichi immediately turned to her sensei. "Do they have shinobi in Nami no Kuni?" she asked. Kakashi smiled at the inquisitive green-eyed girl under his face mask. No shinobi of their own. You have nothing to worry about. C ranks are not expected to encounter any enemy shinobi, not even genin or C rank nukenin unless something goes wrong," he assured before ruffling the girl's pink hair. Tazuna looked oddly nervous and Kakashi noticed a puddle up ahead. Naruto noticed it too, but the blonde was wired to the depths and his first response to a possible trap was Kage Bunshin. It hadn't rained to Naruto's knowledge and the sky was clear. He didn't know what the puddle was, but his Bunshin would find out. Kakashi was alarmed by the sudden and calculated use of Kage Bunshin. "Wait!" he tried to warn, but a pair of dark-haired shinobi with matching rebreathers and clawed gauntlets on opposite hands emerged from the puddle. A chain of shuriken connected the gauntlets of the two shinobi and tore through Naruto's Bunshin. One had a single horned Hittite, while the other had two horns on his, but both had the symbol for Kirigakure shinobi. Kakashi even recognized them, a pair of Chunin from Chijiri, Oni Kyodai. He named as his blonde student gripped Nokojiriboko in his right hand to lift it from its holster. "We hope to take you out first," the single-horned one intoned, and the Jonin struggled to remember their names. "Taking you in a straight fight doesn't seem like a good idea, Kakashi Hatake," the man confessed. Being noticed by that blonde brat with the weird weapon was an insulting wake-up call though. The two-horned brother added with a grumble. Kakashi still couldn't remember their individual names. Naruto guessed the shinobi with the single-horned Hittite was the more rational one, and addressed the other enemy, Oni. "I thought those were bunny ears," he said sardonically. The two-horned brother disconnected his gauntlet from the chain of shuriken as he rushed the blonde. He lunged with his clawed gauntlet. Naruto stepped back as he unfolded his weapon with a flick. The blade snapping into place knocked the older shinobi's attack aside. Naruto lowered his stance and swung. His blade carved through the right shoulder and chest of the enemy ninja. The wounded man stumbled back after a spray of blood exited his sucking chest wound. His brother caught him, and the now blood-covered Naruto pounced. Nokojiriboko snapped shut as Naruto swung, and the toothed edge of his blade clashed against the gauntlet of the man he'd wounded. The blonde hopped back as the uninjured brother angrily swiped at him before the young genin palmed a kunai. Kakashi put a hand on the blonde boy's shoulder. "I think you've humiliated them enough," he said to halt the fight. "You need medical attention?" he pointed out. "Tell us why you attacked and maybe the injured one of you gets to live," he bargained. "Run for it, Goza," the wounded Chunin demanded. Then he lunged at Kakashi. The Jonin clotheslined him easily enough with his right forearm before his student could kill the man. But the now named uninjured brother had followed the wishes of his dying brother. The Jonin commander of Konoha Cell 7 sighed. "Alright, I'm just going to lay the accusation out. Why were they after us, Tazuna-san?" he asked bluntly. "I hoped to lure them into revealing who they were going for." But to my surprise, Naruto-kun displayed amazing observation abilities, surpassing even Sakura-chan, he praised. Naruto flushed. "Well, it hasn't rained, you know," he pointed out. Sakura felt embarrassed. She hadn't even realized it. The dead last had noticed a detail she had completely overlooked and acted on a deduction formed on that observation before any of them could react. The kunoichi wondered what exactly had happened to Naruto. Sasuke was more focused on Tazuna, noticing how nervous the client was. Practically confirmed Kakashi's accusation, but that wouldn't fly in any court. They needed a verbal confession. "Alright, I admit it. Well, that was easy, but you have to understand. My country is poor because of this awful man, and he's almost definitely the one who sent those shinobi after me," the bridge builder confessed. "Gato." Kakashi's eyes widened in alarm. "Please don't tell me you mean Gato the shipping magnate, Richest man in the world? He requested. Okay, I won't, Tazuna said, then he remained silent. Shit. Kakashi grumbled under his breath before he started performing emergency first aid on the dying Chunin. Alright, this is now officially above my team's pay grade. You got lucky this time, but imagine if Naruto had frozen up. These guys use poison. He pointed out. I'm fine, Naruto said. The boy was pretty sure he probably would be fine even if he did get poisoned. What was it going to do, kill him? You did well, Naruto-kun, Kakashi assured, misunderstanding the blonde's irritation. The Jonin soon had the man stable. Alright, he lost a lot of blood, but he should live. The Jonin said once he was done, although he wasn't entirely certain about that. Sakura-chan, Sasuke-kun, you two carry him, he ordered as he pulled out a fold-out stretcher. Why not Naruto? Sakura asked, crossing her arms. I do not want the captive to go into shock and die when the first thing he sees is the still bloody genin that nearly killed him, Kakashi retorted dryly, and the lips of the kunoichi pressed in as she averted her gaze from the Jonin and the injured Chunin. Naruto was frowning. He wasn't sure if he should be, but he hoped no one guessed the reason. He avoided looking at the Kiranin he'd nearly killed, the man he secretly felt the urge to finish off. Tazuna was frowning for a different reason. You guys aren't just going to leave me here, are you? He asked, a worried tone to his voice. I have half a mind to, Kakashi muttered. Wait, Tazuna stammered, this Gato guy, he's ruined my home. No one can make any money and he bribes the daimyo. He has the entire nation under his thumb. I need to finish this bridge so we have some way to trade without using his shipping, he explained. What's stopping him from setting up a toll? Naruto asked curiously. It's illegal for him to set up a toll between nations. It would drain his wallet too much to bribe two daimyo, and it's not worth the risk of other daimyo noticing and cutting ties with him, Tazuna explained logically. This is still Kakashi began to protest. I want to help, Naruto insisted. He wanted some act of generosity and kindness, some kind of heroism to prove he wasn't a monster. He realized that he actually needed it. Kakashi wasn't sure why the blonde was so eager, but he looked to his other genin and saw the Uchiha nod, and the pink-haired girl looked to his response before she copied it. Alright, I guess I'm outnumbered here, he agreed. Tazuna smiled. Well, a super thanks to you all then, he said happily. He hadn't even needed to guilt-trip the ninja. Imagine that. Kakashi sat the drugged Meizu up against the wall of the fisherman's shack. Alright, who else is working with Gato? He demanded to know. The drugged Chunin mumbled something unintelligible before he glared at Kakashi. Zabuza-san, he began with a slur, "Gon kill you." He finished before his head lolled to the side and he passed out. Your weapon causes horrifying sucking chest wounds, Kakashi said blandly as he processed the name he just heard. Thank you? Kakashi had not meant it as a compliment, but he decided to neither correct nor confirm it. Zabuza Momochi, this mission just jumped in rank again, he said instead. How bad? Sakura asked nervously. Those two Chunin and Gato's involvement made it be rank minimum. This is now a rank, Kakashi answered. He noticed his genin shiver, but Naruto's reaction seemed oddly forced. The blonde reacted a second too late, after seeing his teammates doing it. You, Tazuna began hesitantly, you'll still help, right? He asked. This is way above what my students can handle, Kakashi denied bluntly. The two boys looked offended and the girl looked downtrodden. This isn't some Chunin my students can handle because they have a lot of talent for their age, he continued, his words pacifying the genin. This is Zabuza Momochi. He could assassinate them, or you, while distracting me with a bunch, and if I'm not careful, he's enough of a threat that the best way my genin can help is by staying out of the way, he explained. Naruto took offense to all of that. I'll do it myself if you try to quit, he threatened. Kakashi stared incredulously at Naruto, wondering why the blonde was so determined to finish the mission. Sasuke looked emboldened by the declaration, and the Jonin knew the kunoichi of the cell would go with whatever the Uchiha wanted to do. Why? He asked. Naruto frowned. It's the right thing to do, he said simply with a shrug. Kakashi shook his head with a sigh. Alright, we've come this far, we might as well get you home, he agreed. He could not risk the surprisingly stealthy blonde disappearing to fight an A-rank opponent alone. Tazuna wasn't sure why Naruto had so much influence, but he was grateful the boy had a good moral compass. The fisherman took the group in his boat, clearly worried about leaving a drugged and wounded shinobi in his shack, but Kakashi had explained that it was more dangerous to bring the man with them. The Jonin seemed sure the Kiranin would wake up and be grateful enough about being untied to leave civilians alone, as long as he wasn't a bloodthirsty monster. The last part had been said in a joking tone, but the words really brought down the mood. Kakashi pretended not to notice as Naruto tried not to think of the damage he could do if he snapped. They traveled silently after that, through some mangroves. Tazuna thanked the fisherman and the group of 4 shinobi, and client continued, all the shinobi on high alert. Kakashi was glad he at least knew who was coming after them, but that person being Zabuza Momochi was hardly comforting. Naruto's eyes darted around as they walked until his left hand suddenly palmed a shuriken and tossed it so fast the Jonin almost missed that it was more like a small kunai without the ring to counterbalance. For a moment nothing happened. Sakura approached the bushes the blade had been thrown in. You scared the bunny. She scolded with a glare at the blonde, then she frowned as she turned back to the white rabbit and the knife. Is that serrated? She asked. Kakashi raised an eyebrow, saw toothed weapons and now serrated shuriken. Naruto certainly had a cruel taste in weaponry. He made a note to keep an eye on the boy, but for now he focused on the more dangerous detail. The weather was not cold enough for a rabbit to have a white coat unless it was an indoor pet. Naruto had spotted someone who had left the rabbit as a decoy. The Jonin commander tried not to give away that he was looking. He saw Naruto tense up a moment before he heard it. Get down! He ordered as soon as he recognized the sound of something large slicing through the air at them. Sasuke grabbed Tazuna and Sakura to pull the two down as they froze up. Naruto turned to spot the attack and saw the blade in time to dive backwards. The massive sword spun across the clearing before lodging into a tree. Naruto rolled to his feet as it passed over him so close it nearly gave Kakashi a heart attack, but so smoothly it caught his entire team off guard. A tall shirtless man with bandages around his face, slashed Kiri Hitaiite Askew sideways, camo arm warmers, pinstripe pants, and a leather harness likely meant for holding the massive sword landed on the weapon lodged in the tree. Zabuza Momochi. Kakashi greeted. Zabuza had short dark hair, dark eyes, and small eyebrows. Sharingan no Kakashi, I presume. The man said, and Sasuke tensed. Could you surrender that old man? He requested politely. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Would you? He asked sarcastically, taking the older shinobi off guard with his casual attitude. Kakashi didn't give anything away. Naruto-kun, this guy is serious. Assume a manji formation around the client now. He ordered sternly as he reached for his Hitaiite. Zabuza turned to face them properly. Ah, to face the legendary Sharingan so soon in our encounter. Now this is an honor. He mused idly. Naruto's retort died in his throat as he felt the oppressive, malevolent intent of Zabuza descend on him. He tensed his jaw and muscles as his eyes focused on the shirtless swordsman. The Nukenin was surprised the blonde brat could still glare at him from under his killing intent, not as much that the 3 genin managed to get into formation despite it, as he didn't think his would be paralyzing except to a civilian perhaps. Zabuza leaped towards the water, pulling his sword free and holstering it before he landed on the surface. Is he walking on water? Sakura asked, stunned by that more than the speed. Kakashi took a defensive stance, recognizing the buildup of chakra as Zabuza used Kirigakure no Jutsu to spread a thick mist across the battlefield. He's gone! The pink-haired Kunoichi exclaimed in shock. Zabuza Momochi is a master of silently killing his opponents. Kakashi explained, letting your guard down around him is a quick way to die. I haven't necessarily mastered all the abilities of the Sharingan, so all of you stay on your toes. He warned. Sakura and Sasuke felt their hearts beating fast, but Naruto was panicking mostly because if he died and woke up in Konoha he would have no way to explain it. The idea that he'd have to hide away in the ruined depths sent chills down his spine. There are 8 targets. Zabuza's voice seemed to come from all around them: throat, spine, lungs, liver, jugular vein, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart. So many choices. Which vulnerable target should I choose? He questioned, his voice thrown into the chakra-thickened mist obscuring his position. Naruto willed himself to speak up. You can hit both kidneys at the same time with that thing? He asked dryly. I can bisect you with it. Naruto supposed that would technically hit both kidneys if the angle of the cut was right. He was vaguely aware of his team staring in horror. I have to be honest, I don't know what a subclavian artery is, and I'd like to know if you're going to choose that. The blonde spoke quickly and truthfully. He was pretty sure he could lose a lot more blood than a regular person. Under the left shoulder. Naruto's eyes searched for the nuke. If I'd angled my swing differently, I would have killed that guy we caught. He mused quietly. Poor choice of words. Zabuza mocked, and the next thing the genin knew, Kakashi was in between them, holding back the escaped Oni Kyodai. Gozu wants revenge for what you did to Meizu. Probably should be a little more sensitive. He mocked, and then he was there swinging at the client. The oversized sword cleaved the water, then a kunai dug into the nuke, wielding it only for the man and weapon to turn to water as well. Good distraction, Naruto-kun. Kakashi praised, although internally he was screaming. The blonde was far too calm about danger. Kakashi knew the boy had an idea of how durable the kitsune made him, but he was worried it had given the Jinchuriki some kind of complex. Naruto caught sight of the Sharingan. It was bright red and had 3 tomo around the pupil. He immediately and instinctively averted his gaze. Hiding the client, eh? Smart. Zabuza acknowledged, and soon the genin all saw Kakashi leaping to avoid a dragon made of water crashing into his hiding place. Tazuna was in the Konoha Jonin's grip. It won't work though. Gozu managed to break free of the Bunshin grappling with him, and tried to backhand Naruto with his clawed gauntlet. The blonde hopped back out of reach, but in doing so he broke formation. Sakura jumped back as well, but the oversized sword came at her back. Naruto's eyes widened in alarm. Thankfully Kakashi was there. His back against Sakura stopped the girl from backing up into her own death. Unfortunately, he only had kunai for blocking the massive blade, so he was unable to fully halt it. Kakashi's upper right arm near the shoulder sprayed blood. Sakura had looked relieved to be saved until that blood hit her. Sasuke kicked Gozu in the back of the head as Naruto charged Zabuza. The 2 jonin separated as the Chunin dropped from the location of the kick and how much force the Uchiha put behind it. The blonde genin leaped. Kakashi's eyes widened as Zabuza swung to meet the boy in midair. To Kakashi and Zabuza's surprise, Naruto's blade clashed with the oversized sword, and instead of his guard being knocked aside, the entire blonde was sent flying by the momentum. His back hit the ground as he tucked his chin, and the blonde genin rolled to his feet with a kunai palmed as if he'd practiced being tossed outside of his control. Kakashi was pretty sure there was no way for Naruto to train that in Konoha, but now Zabuza was interested. Naruto had not only survived clashing blades with him, but he'd kept his guard while doing so and recovered from being sent sprawling like a seasoned veteran. Well now, what do we have here? Zabuza asked. Even that kid with the Uchiha fan on his back was shaking in his sandals at my presence. But you're holding your own at least as much as a Chunin. He mused. I have to wonder what wore a brat like you learned to hold your own like that and gained such a lust for blood. Naruto flinched. He needed a lie that was close to the truth because he hadn't gone to war. Unless a war on the beasts counted, I go hunting. He answered blandly. It sounded like a lame excuse even to him. Zabuza laughed as he disappeared back into the thickening mist, and Kakashi tensed up. Cute excuse. But you don't seem like you were viewing me as a deer, and fighting boar isn't enough to develop that kind of ability. He pointed out. Naruto frowned at being called out. Well, you tried to attack Sakura-chan from behind, so I do kind of view you as a beast. He grumbled. Another bluff, as the real reason was that the sight and smell of blood had spurred him to move, to fight, to hunt. I'm hunting you. He decided firmly. That one didn't even feel like a lie despite the situation. Zabuza laughed again. You're a real comedian, aren't you? Who do you think is being hunted in this situation? He asked. Kakashi mentally cursed as he knew he would spread his chakra far too thin trying to make sure both the client and Naruto survived. Naruto turned his head a few times. His eyes tracked something. He could smell the blood. He needed to focus on the mobile scent of iron if he didn't want to give away his immortality. Unfortunately, the blonde was so focused on keeping track of Zabuza, of not dying, that he didn't think to hide he was doing so. The blonde was too used to hunting beasts with baser cunning. You can actually track me. The Kiri shinobi realized, even your sensei's Sharingan can't track me until I visually reveal myself, so I'm guessing you must have some ability as a sensor too. The voice of the man echoed around them. Naruto had been about to panic about revealing something inhuman about himself when he was offered an out, but he had no idea what a sensor was, so he blurted out, "What's a sensor?" "He's saying you're tracking him by sensing his chakra, are you?" Sakura asked curiously, still shell-shocked but able to talk. "Yeah, sure," Naruto answered, trying not to shrug as he remained focused on Zabuza's shifting location. "Hey, this might sound weird, but Kakashi-sensei, could you get the client out of here while I hold the enemy off?" he asked, having already revealed a bit more than he intended. Kakashi frowned under his mask. His Sharingan tracked where Naruto's eyes went. "Leave you alone to fight an A-rank nukenin who attempted to assassinate his Mizukage Dano?" "Absolutely not," he refused. "I'll live," Naruto said dryly. His sensei was surprised by the confidence. The Jonin looked at his student again. The blonde genin wasn't shaken by being tossed around, exposed to high-level killing intent, or nearly dying. His breathing was even, measured, his stance relaxed, his grip on the handle of his weapon firm but not tight. Kakashi checked Naruto's eyes and was relieved they were still blue at least, but he was worried about the genin seeming to be so okay with the situation. The boy was too confident. Zabuza landed on the nearby lake. "Will you now?" he challenged as he weaved hand signs, openly this time. Kakashi rushed to intercept. "Okay, I can't fight you on the water surface, dick." Naruto snapped at the nukenin. His ability to be a snarky brat under high pressure was astounding. The Jonin also took note that the boy took surprises in stride, as if he was already jaded. The silver-haired man wondered if his student had been so shaken by the revelation of the kitsune that he was distracted and almost missed when Zabuza's hands shifted to Tiger, and the flow of his chakra, visible to the Sharingan, shifted to indicate an abandoned ninjutsu cancelled into an easier and quicker one. Mizu Bunshin surrounded Kakashi. He'd rushed into the element of his enemy while weaving copied hand signs. He knew the jutsu Zabuza had been about to use though and finished them anyway, Suryuden no Jutsu. He announced, and the water beneath him whirled into a dragon that tore through a pair of Bunshin as it rushed Zabuza while the copy ninja leaped back. Suiro no Jutsu. Zabuza's Bunshin intoned as the real one evaded the Suryuden. Two more of the Mizu Bunshin approached the shoreline, where the genin were and where the client was hidden. "Take the client and get out of here!" Kakashi shouted in alarm as he was trapped in an orb of water, hoping Naruto would finally realize how outmatched he was. Naruto took in the situation. His sensei was trapped and at the mercy of an enemy assassin. His teammates probably wouldn't listen to him if he didn't listen to his sensei's command, and the enemy could make solid Bunshin out of water. One Bunshin held Kakashi trapped, two more approached the shoreline, and the real one, Naruto could smell the blood on the end of his blade, was no trick of chakra. The real one stood between the trapped Jonin and his advancing Bunshin on the surface of the water. Chapter 6: Eye of the Maelstrom. Kakashi saw the look in Naruto's eyes even at the distance, and through the chakra-infused water holding him in place thanks to the Sharingan. Mizu Bunshin can't get too far from the maker, unlike Kage Bunshin, so you can escape if you just run. If he chases you, then I can escape because his Bunshin holding this up will collapse, he explained quickly. Zabuza chuckled darkly. "I could just kill you and then go after them, you know," he pointed out, reaching for the oversized sword on his back to emphasize the point. Naruto considered his options. "I'm going to use Kenjutsu," he told his sensei bluntly as he holstered his weapon. Zabuza frowned under his bandages and narrowed his eyes at the blonde. "What?" he asked. "Taiju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," Naruto announced as he crossed the first two fingers of each hand and poured his chakra into it. His problem with most jutsu was too much chakra, and apparently this jutsu used enough chakra to kill people. It's not like the jutsu would actually kill the blonde genin. A mob of orange-clad blondes filled the clearing. Zabuza stared at the sheer number of Kage Bunshin, too many to count, some hidden in the tree-line. Then some of them used henge, becoming his teammates. "Run!" One Sasuke told a Sakura, and nearly a quarter of the Bunshin ran off. The real Sasuke and Sakura assumed the plan was for them to regroup while the Bunshin covered their sensei, and that the real Naruto would be with them. It was a clever plan and neither would have expected it from Naruto. Tazuna was picked up by one of the Kage Bunshin and taken as well. Zabuza noticed his outline move in between trees. Just what the hell kind of chakra does this kid have? He asked. Kakashi decided to answer that just to stall for time. He is Naruto Uzumaki, he said dryly despite how the water distorted his voice slightly. Zabuza's eyes began to widen before he narrowed them, refused to turn back and see Kakashi. He knew the Jonin would have no tells. Liar, he accused, he doesn't have the red hair. He denied. He has the chakra, and the vitality. Kakashi said that they knew he had the vitality was concerning and the Kiri ninja decided to reappraise Konoha Shinobi. Hey, Naruto Uzumaki. Zabuza called out to test the theory. What do you want? Naruto asked. Zabuza wondered if the one speaking was actually the boy, but he doubted it. He could afford for the brat to know which one was the real him, but the same could not be said of the reverse. Who was your first kill? He asked. Naruto tensed up, all of him. Every single Bunshin looked nervous. I killed the Chunin instructor to graduate when the man turned traitor, he answered eventually. Zabuza laughed. Well, isn't that something? And you got that weird wicked blade. Do you know how I graduated, brat? He asked. Bunshin no Jutsu? Naruto answered with a shrug. Zabuza scoffed. No, in Chijiri no Sato we had a different graduation ceremony. He began. Kids would pair up and kill each other to graduate, he explained, smirking under his bandages at how uncomfortable all of the Naruto Bunshin looked. They changed the tradition the year I turned up and killed all the other wannabe ninja. He added before he intentionally widened his grin, such fun, I wasn't even a student. Naruto blinked. His opponent was a monster of a human. The man was just like the desiccated husk beneath Konoha, or the rambling crazed old Ryoshi who didn't dream anymore. Zabuza may not have the blood, but he was no better than a beast. Naruto's Bunshin lunged. Copies of no Kujiraboko snapped open as the front rows of the Kage Bunshin horde attacked the two Mizu Bunshin. The massive sword, copied by water, managed to land glancing blows that dispelled some but were soon dispelled themselves. Then the Kage Bunshin started throwing shuriken at Zabuza and the remaining Mizu Bunshin to rescue his sensei. You think that shit will work? The Nuke-nin snarled as he pulled his massive blade from his back and knocked the first volley out of the air. You think I can't see right through you, unpolished brat? He added as he charged. His body ducked to avoid the second volley. Zabuza's Mizu Bunshin took his copy of the massive sword to hand and swung it to avoid being dispelled by the second volley as Zabuza leaped to the back of the Bunshin and swung at one who was slightly to the back. The blade went right through with a puff of smoke but no log. The follow-through of the swing dispelled another 6 Bunshin, but there were still 40 Naruto, the rest didn't dispel. Zabuza had been lured onto the land. 5 copies of Naruto's blade, still folded, swung at the Nuke-nin. Zabuza was surprised even the Bunshin could block his blade with theirs, but each Naruto was still knocked back. He wasn't sure if he'd miscalculated, been bluffed, or fooled with a kawarimi between the original and the Bunshin. The 5 Naruto hit the ground, 4 dispelled from the impact and the 5th rolled to his feet smoothly, barely winded. Zabuza could tell from the way 4 of them dispelled that the blonde was not completely unharmed by being thrown around, but the boy hid any pain well. What disturbed Zabuza more was Naruto's placement had been right there waiting for him. He was sure he would have seen the boy perform a kawarimi. That certainty wavered as he considered the use of henge and the sheer amount of Kage Bunshin. The boy had even declared it a kinjutsu. Zabuza had to accept that he had actually been lured into what the blonde considered an ambush. Nice try, he acknowledged, but the difference between us is still a bit too vast for you to cut me. That you haven't been cut yourself defending against me is worth some praise though. Naruto scuffed the ground with his right foot. Good instincts. He excused. It was a poor excuse. Technically he was self-taught. But this self-teaching of how to fight with his weapon had been accomplished by throwing himself at things he thought were far scarier than Zabuza. Some were even bigger than the muscular Nuke-nin. Granted, few had blades even half the size of that sword of his, but still. Zabuza's hackles raised as he noticed the Kage Bunshin moving to surround him. The way they walked gave off a malevolent intent to kill. It was predatory. He eyed the blonde boy without giving away he noticed. For all the world the genin seemed like a nervous brat if not for the Hitaiite, armored gloves, shuriken holster, and that weapon. What is that thing anyway? Zabuza asked as he pointed his blade one-handed at Naruto's weapon in an impressive display of arm strength. No Kojiraboko. Naruto answered calmly. Zabuza laughed again. Well now, Kubikirabocho versus no Kojiraboko, what an odd match-up. I suppose that weapon makes sense for Konoha, but still, you seem like you're trying to copy me. The man mused. I suppose your sensei is the copy ninja too. He added dryly. He wasn't sure how long his bunshin holding the man would last. Naruto took in the name of his opponent's weapon. It was a little ironic. Well, it's not intentional. Mizuki betrayed the village, and I just ended up killing him and learned some stuff, so Hokagejiji made me a ninja, he said, withholding as much information as he thought he should. Zabuza picked up on the affectionate honorific for the Sandaime Hokage though and eyed the boy more closely. Uzumaki, close to the Hokage, and disturbingly competent in a fight even if he seemed oddly untrained at being a shinobi. If the blonde was more emotionless, more focused, more disciplined, then Zabuza might assume the boy was a covert black ops. However, Kakashi had ordered them to run and the blonde was ignoring that and trying to rescue his sensei. The boy was more experienced with fighting than taking orders. Naruto's bloodlust was another matter to consider. Killing intent was not a jutsu or technique, it was a simple phenomena. At its base form it was expressed with body language. Chakra enhanced that to a degree, but it was most usually a passive thing. Creatures gave away subconscious thoughts in their body language, in the way they moved and stood. Zabuza felt that being surrounded by Naruto was akin to being surrounded by a pack of wolves. The boy had a hunger, bloodlust, in his eyes. His stance was that relaxed but predatory stance, and his bunshin moved slowly as if not to spook the Nukenin. Zabuza had not expected a genin to actually make him feel such a chill down his spine, but he would not react to a genin triggering his fight or flight response with anything but violence. Kubikirabocho swung through the air. A bunshin attempted to halt the attack, and while Naruto had the impressive strength to withstand the Nukenin, he lacked the power to actually stop the attack. Two blonde boys went flying, one dispelled as they hit the ground and the other rolled to his feet and tossed a shuriken under his right arm with his left arm. Zabuza watched it spin through the air and skip across the water once at his remaining bunshin. The Mizu bunshin managed to dodge it. Naruto narrowed his eyes and a dozen of him moved to completely encircle the Nukenin. Zabuza spun and swung his blade to send each Naruto who managed to defend flying. Two were dispelled by the blade itself. Another 9 dispelled as they hit the ground. Zabuza glared at Naruto as the blonde rolled smoothly to his feet yet again. The boy showed no signs of getting tired or being in too much pain to continue. The number of Kage bunshin was dwindling though. Zabuza could actually count there were 50 left. The one genin army charged again, another dozen much to Zabuza's annoyance. None were dispelled from the blade. 11 clouds of smoke helped conceal the blonde as he rolled to his feet again. Then Naruto surprised Zabuza again by throwing a Fuma shuriken at his Mizu bunshin left-handed. The watery duplicate was almost taken off guard but managed to get its copy of Kubikirabocho up, knocked the surprise weapon aside. As Zabuza wondered where the boy had gotten the weapon, he was answered as the knocked-aside shuriken became Naruto, who had used his Nokojiriboko to defend himself with a metal blade and henge but still had a vicious cut on his right forearm. Naruto swung as he snapped his blade out to full length and palmed a kunai in his left hand. The Mizu bunshin caught the boy with a blade lock of their weapons, which was all the airtime the blonde needed to throw his kunai into the right foot of the Mizu bunshin. Zabuza was livid. Having to hunt the target was one thing. Needing to deal with Kakashi Hatake, one of the few living people left who had the Sharingan, was a fun challenge. A genin having such bloodlust, combat instinct, and ability was novel even. That same genin actually managing to get one up on him, rescue Kakashi, and make his job take longer was not amusing. The Nukenin ignored the remaining Kage bunshin. He raced across the water and swung his blade furiously. A hand on Naruto's ankle dragged the boy underwater. Zabuza turned left and followed his swing through. He shifted the angle upwards to swing at Kakashi as the man, or a bunshin, came at him with a kunai. The blade glanced off his sword and Kubikirabocho turned the bunshin into water, which confirmed the jonin had his genin and might try to escape. The Nukenin noticed Goza still unconscious on the ground. Seeing as the Konoha ninja had not thought to capture the Chunin, he decided to let Kakashi get away for now. He would have liked to clash with the Sharingan more to figure out a way to deal with it, but he'd make do with what he had learned. Zabuza took out his misplaced aggression on the remaining Kage Bunshin before he rescued Gozu, though he was still annoyed. Why am I aware of Zabuza killing my Bunshin? Kakashi raised an eyebrow as he readjusted his hataite over his left eye. Dispelling them, he corrected idly, the blonde was a bit too morbid at times. You never noticed that you retained the memories of Kage Bunshin? He asked. Naruto shook his head. The two were rushing to get to the rest of their team through the trees after Kakashi got Naruto away with a burst of speed that left the boy dizzy. He wanted that jutsu, whatever that was. How do you never notice that? Kakashi asked incredulously. I can't read kanji, and I used the jutsu like twice. Naruto responded blandly. Kakashi was silent for a moment. You learned a kinjutsu and the parent ninjutsu from the Fuin no Sho without being able to read kanji, just using the description of the hand seal and practicing with your chakra and the seal until you could make Kage Bunshin. He guessed. The blonde just nodded since that about summed it up. That's actually amazing. But yes, it's a scouting ninjutsu primarily. Naruto was glad for the praise and even happier that the way he first used it was technically a correct application. Not that his sensei would ever know, since it looked like he just used them to fight. He never actually tried that before. He wondered if the Bunshin could collect chi no ishi for him. Still, it seems you have even more chakra than me to be able to make that many, which means you can actually use them for a combat distraction. Kakashi praised. For most people, the taiju part means like 10 or so. You made nearly 100 or more. He clarified, it's a kinjutsu because of the chakra requirements, but I suppose you have extra chakra reserves. Naruto was pretty sure his sensei was talking about the kitsune. He had no idea, and he did not actually know if the man was right or if there was something else weird making his chakra so monstrous. A few weeks ago Naruto would have loved to be special. Growing up an orphan gave him dreams of grandeur. Now he just wanted to be a normal ninja. He still wanted to be Hokage though, so he'd suck it up and use his advantages. Your cut isn't bleeding, Kakashi pointed out. The blonde hadn't even noticed and looked at the right arm. The red wound was visibly closing. Naruto thought he needed blood for that. Maybe it didn't matter, but the doll said he needed blood, so perhaps as long as he had blood in his body he would be fine. The boy had no idea. The adult shinobi of Konoha seemed to think his healing factor was related to the Kyuubi somehow. The Jonin continued, we can tell your teammates it's an Uzumaki thing. He said, taking note of his student's surprised look. He clarified, it's not a complete lie, and they don't need to know why it's so potent. Besides, what are the odds of another Uzumaki pointing out your healing factor is stronger than normal? Naruto wondered if this was a test. A lot of bombshells had just been dropped on him. Uzumaki have a healing factor? We're a clan? He asked. Well, not anymore, Kakashi said apologetically. I'd be surprised if there are even 2 more out there. Most wouldn't even think you are one because of the hair. The clan was known for red hair and Fuinjutsu. He explained. I'm the orphan heir of a dead clan, Naruto said bluntly. I did not say heir, Kakashi denied quickly. Naruto frowned. Still, orphan of a dead clan. Guess me and Sasuke have more in common than I thought. He muttered. You should keep the other secret to yourself, but technically everything I just told you about your clan could be learned at the public library if anyone cared to research your name. Kakashi explained plainly. The fact that none of Naruto's classmates had ever looked into his name was not too surprising, but the realization that he himself had never bothered to look into it put a weight in his stomach. Soon enough Kakashi and Naruto caught up with Sakura and Sasuke. Tazuna panted and leaned up against a tree. Did you get him? The man asked nervously. We disengaged, basically a draw, Kakashi informed, and the client slumped to the ground with a horrified expression. Sasuke glared at his blonde teammate. I thought you were with us, he accused. Sakura joined in glaring, although she looked far more shaken. I was, Naruto retorted. Bunshin do not count, Sakura snapped. Do you know how worried we were when I slapped you and you disappeared? She scolded angrily. You even got hurt, moron. She grumbled. Her eyes snapped to the bloody right arm. Wait, she noticed the wound healing. Naruto stepped back on his right foot and pulled his arm away from the kunoichi. He was touched she was worried about him, but he had to hide things. "I'm fine," he insisted. Uzumaki were said to have enhanced vitality. Kakashi began to explain, and the word vitality clicked in the blonde boy's head. It seems that may have inferred whatever branch Naruto-kun descended from with a healing factor based on their chakra. He explained for the nervous genin, "I'm surprised you don't know this, Sakura-chan. Based on your test scores I assumed you knew all the clans, even dead ones with scattered survivors since one was in your class." Sakura flushed as attention fell on her. I never noticed. It never came up in my reading." She excused bashfully. "So, Naruto has a Kekkei Genkai?" she asked, and the blonde flinched as he registered the meaning of the words. "Not quite," but Kakashi began to retort. "It sounds like a Kekkei Genkai," Sasuke said bluntly, eyeing the cut. "So, Naruto can match Jonin because he can heal?" he asked. "Well, that's not quite the whole story. But there is a civilian present, my adorable students who are talking around dangerous military secrets," Kakashi warned in a sing-song tone. Tazuna and Sakura paled at the implication. Sasuke looked at Naruto, but besides being a bit nervous the boy looked oddly relieved. Before the Uchiha could analyze that further, the bridge builder spoke up. "Alright, not much further to my house," he said as he shakily stood up. The man had put on a brave face and pulled a fresh bottle of booze from his travel bag. "My daughter will have a super dinner for you, shinobi. Come on," he said, eager to get going. Tazuna's daughter was a young woman named Tsunami with straight black hair, and she did indeed have food for the shinobi. "Thank you all so much for bringing Otosan home safe. I've been worried sick ever since he said he was going to hire a shinobi," she said gratefully as she served dinner. Kakashi had wanted to have a Kage Bunshin patrol the area, but given the situation and how much chakra he'd pulled Naruto aside and asked the blonde to do it. The boy had casually made 6 like it was nothing. The kid really did have some monstrous chakra. It was no problem. Kakashi lied politely. "My students are the top of the graduating class at Konoha's Shinobi Academy," he explained. Nobody corrected him about Naruto being the dead last, but Sasuke and Sakura did glance at their mysterious teammate. Tazuna looked at the pink-haired kunoichi. "Really? The girl was just not doing anything to guard me then?" he asked incredulously. "Any normal genin would be shaken when faced with an opponent like Zabuza Momochi. Even I'll have difficulty defeating him," Kakashi said with some levity to his tone, but that just put more scrutiny on Naruto, who didn't even look like a normal genin. Awkwardly enough, despite his displayed combat prowess and use of a decently sized weapon, he was still shorter than either of his teammates. Sasuke knew the blonde was physically strong but not that skilled and had been completely floored by what he saw. Tazuna joined the two genin in staring at the third. His daughter picked up on it and looked curiously at him. "I've seen worse, you know," Naruto excused awkwardly with a shrug. Sasuke narrowed his eyes because he had seen worse before too, and he had still been shaken, so he wanted to know why the blonde was different. Tazuna raised an eyebrow, but Kakashi interrupted by coughing into his fist. "It is best not to pry into ninja secrets. Especially not with such a lovely dinner in front of us," he said, praising Tsunami with his words. "Well, Naruto's Bunshin can sense if Zabuza or more assassins come, right?" Sakura asked, and Naruto tried not to give away that he'd forgotten he pretended to be a censor as Kakashi nodded. "What about when he goes to sleep?" she asked. Naruto wished the pink-haired girl would stop trying to give him a heart attack because he still had yet to explain to anyone he didn't sleep like a normal human anymore. Kakashi simply hummed thoughtfully. "Depending on how much chakra they have, the Kage Bunshin might either dispel or get drowsy and last a little bit longer. I suppose if something attacks one of them in this moment it would jolt Naruto-kun awake, but they'll all dispel naturally once he fully falls asleep," the Jonin explained to his genin. "I can go all night," Naruto said casually, and Tazuna snorted. His daughter glared at him as the man covered his amused smirk with a mug of beer. Kakashi shook his head. "I appreciate the offer, but we can't risk you exhausting yourself to the point you can't fight," he insisted. "I'll need to rest up before I can get a message back to Konoha asking for backup," he pointed out. Naruto frowned. "We can take them," he insisted right back as he crossed his arms. "You might be able to take Gozu, and I might be able to take Zabuza, but who else could Gato have hired?" Kakashi pointed out as he stepped his fingers. Zabuza might be too proud to accept help, but he was fine with letting Gozu try to kill you, and Gozu is merciless. He explained, and the blonde shivered. He'll be fine with working with whatever scum Gato can hire if it means taking you out, and after you pissed him off, Zabuza might just let him. Sakura had gone pale during the speech. Tsunami looked numb. Sasuke was tense, but Naruto just sighed in an almost resigned manner. I'll live, he said dryly. The underlying certainty there confused the Jonin, who was the only one to notice it. Sasuke grit his teeth at the confidence of his blonde teammate. I can fight too, he pointed out as he crossed his arms. We're a cell, he added offhand. Sakura jolted. She felt compelled by the Uchiha speaking up to do so herself. Yeah, she added, her voice wavering a little too much to seem confident. Kakashi sighed. I'm still calling for backup when I can. I'd like you three trained far more before letting any of you fight unknown enemy shinobi, but there is no telling when the enemy will strike, he muttered. Naruto paled as he recalled his sensei and team thought they were safe because he, and by extension his bunshin, could sense chakra. I need to use the bathroom, he said and stood quickly. Tsunami pointed him in the right direction and the blonde was off. As soon as he was hidden, he made more Kage bunshin. Screw Kakashi's recommendations, that was based on an incomplete and flawed knowledge of Naruto's abilities. The boy sent Kage bunshin out the window to explain his revelation to the existing bunshin on patrol, as well as a few 4 bunshin cells to patrol extra and a couple to investigate the town. He was good at thinking on his feet, so he was sure his bunshin would come up with some information on Gato, or if anyone weird had been seen around town. With that done, Naruto returned to the dinner table to find a young boy was being introduced to everyone. Inari-kun, this is Naruto-kun, the other shinobi who helped make sure Ojiji got home safe. Tsunami introduced, indicating the boy was her son. Please greet them properly, she asked. The Jonin of Cell 7 noticed her tone was pleading. But Kachin, they're all going to die, Inari protested morbidly with a straight face. Sakura was horrified and Sasuke was perturbed. Naruto snorted with an amused smirk, then his face dropped when the attention turned on him. I mean, we got this, easy win, he insisted. The way he was trying to hide how amusing he found the concept of death concerned Kakashi. No one can defeat Gato and his men, Inari pointed out as if he was saying the sky was blue or grass was green. They're human, right? Naruto asked Tazuna with a raised eyebrow, and the man nodded numbly. Then we'll be fine. Zabuza is the real threat and Kakashi-sensei can take him in a one-on-one, right, sensei? He asked. Kakashi shrugged. It's a fight. I have no idea for certain, but I think I have good odds, he answered. There, see, certain victory, Naruto bluffed blatantly. Kakashi raised an eyebrow since the blonde seemed more confident in his act now, but it was also more obviously an act. Inari didn't pick up on that. Don't lie, he called out coldly. You can't beat Gato. Even if you get rid of Zabuza, there'll just be more and you'll die, he intoned darkly. Naruto frowned. So I'll just kill Gato then, he said. The solution seemed obvious to him. To Kakashi it was as if the blonde had viewed the problem as a knotted rope that he intended to untie by cutting the rope with a blade. It was alarming how quickly the boy resorted to murder. Combined with his sudden competence and unnatural bloodlust, the Jonin was concerned about what had happened between the Genin and Danzo Shimura. He had no idea how little the man had to do with it. Inari seemed surprised by the solution. Naruto wasn't sure why. It seemed obvious to him. Sakura frowned. You'd end up with a bounty for that even if you are with one of the shinobi Godaikoku, she pointed out. Naruto blinked olishly at the new information, filed it away. I don't really see how that matters, he decided after a moment of processing. Sasuke made an amused scoffing sound. He has a point. Kakashi has a bounty. Most shinobi get one sooner or later, he pointed out. Sakura frowned. I guess, but we should take our time to build up our abilities before getting that kind of attention, right? She asked. Naruto shrugged. I'll be fine, he said dismissively as he picked up chopsticks. Itadakimasu? He almost forgot to say. He realized he was saying it less when eating home alone. Inari stared at the boy for a little longer, as everyone else followed the blonde's lead and began to eat. Are you trying to be a hero or something? Naruto looked up from his food at Inari and glared. I'm trying to eat. He retorted, if you think it takes a hero to kill Gato, then I guess that's what I'll be to you when I succeed. He mused. Kakashi blinked at the sudden insightful comment from the blonde, but Inari glared, heroes aren't real. There's no such thing. He snapped. What about Bakemono? Naruto asked quietly, looking back down at his food. Huh? Inari asked, the wind taken out of his sails. You don't believe in heroes, do you believe in Bakemono? Naruto asked again, clarifying his question. Tsunami and Tazuna frowned but were curious about the younger boy's answer. Gato and his men might as well be. Inari grumbled, and his glare only intensified when Naruto laughed at that. It's not funny. They do awful, terrible things. He insisted angrily. Naruto sighed. Yeah, I'm sure, he agreed. Ningen can be real bastards. He groused, I don't mean do you believe in murderers, tyrants, or whatever other sick stuff Gato and his mooks do though. He continued, do you believe in Bakemono who aren't Ningen? He clarified. Kakashi frowned at his student's line of questioning. With what he knew of the Baketsun, it was very concerning to hear the young blonde speak like that. Inari frowned. No, I'm not a baby. He insisted. Naruto smiled. How do you think you react if you ran into a real Bakemono? Something unnatural but pretending to be an animal or person? He asked as his smile dropped. Now Inari looked scared. That stuff isn't real. He insisted. Yeah, so you'd be scared and freeze up. Hope it's a nightmare, you know. Naruto agreed idly as he played with some of his rice. If Gato is a real genuine Bakemono, then I'll be worried. He said before he returned to eating. Everyone who wasn't Inari or the blonde who had spoken could tell Naruto was speaking from experience regarding running into a real Bakemono. Kakashi suspected the Kitsune. Tazuna and Tsunami were concerned. Sasuke and Sakura exchanged a glance, then both looked pointedly at their sensei who shook his head at them. Sakura and Sasuke waited until the four-man cell was alone without civilians eavesdropping. Alright, spill it, the pink-haired Kunoichi demanded with hands on her hips. What happened with you? She clarified at her blonde teammate while Sasuke stood behind her with his arms crossed. Naruto looked panicked. His eyes darted around the room, at Kakashi, then back at his genin teammates. What happened? He repeated the question back at her. You can suddenly fight. Sakura snapped. She tried to be quiet, but her voice still came out in a loud hiss. I could fight. Naruto defended himself. Your taijutsu was awful. The only reason you ever won spars was brute strength, and anything that required scoring points you sucked at. Sasuke reminded blandly. I have the stamina to ignore that stupid point system. Naruto grumbled back, crossing his arms and averting his gaze. Sakura sighed. Look, something clearly happened with you that made you a better fighter. She pointed out. Kakashi had been worried about that. I was hiding my true skills this whole time. Naruto attempted to lie. That's stupid. You expect me to believe you pretended to be an inept attention hog for 6 years to hide that you're a super soldier? Sasuke asked dryly. Hey! Naruto protested angrily. Case in point, reflexive answer at your supposed cover identity being inept or otherwise insulted. Sasuke deduced. Kakashi sighed. Alright, look, he began. It's okay, Naruto-kun, Danzo is not here. He assured. We're not in the nation and he doesn't have an operative that could evade me. He promised. Naruto blinked olishly. He was confused about Danzo being brought up and it took him a second to realize what his sensei was implying. He asked with a raised eyebrow. If you don't say anything, I'm checking you for Fuinjutsu. Kakashi said bluntly, startling all three of his genin. Naruto scrambled to recall what Danzo had told the Hokage and what the Hokage might have then told his sensei. Okay, hang on. I was hiding after I painted the Hokage monument, and wound up in a secret abandoned Umbu base that some guy in a mask almost found me in. Well, he sort of knew I was there, but there was this false back closet, and the boy halted his ramblings. He was about to tell the truth, and he couldn't. Thankfully, the blonde was interrupted by his dark-haired teammate. You accidentally broke into a no longer used Umbu facility while evading Umbu? He asked. I am excellent at stealth. Naruto insisted. It was his best field. What's better than excellent then? Because I believe I still scored higher than you in that too. Sasuke mocked competitively. Kakashi sighed. Boys, please. He requested shortly. Naruto-kun, continue. He requested. You found your weapon down there, right? He asked, and the blonde nodded. I knew you didn't make it. Sakura grumbled. I will have you know I was researching how to do so and was going to become a weaponsmith. Naruto defended himself. I was going to live that lie until it was no longer a lie. He insisted. I still might. He added hotly. Kakashi rubbed his temples. Naruto, continue. He insisted sternly. Naruto frowned, fidgeted a moment, then he sighed. I fell back into some weird place. I got lost. It was scary. There were some dogs and they were rabid or something, I guess. He explained. I found this weapon and, well, defended myself. It was technically true. The only true lies were the massive lies of omission. Kakashi frowned. That's really all? He asked. Naruto-kun, if there's more you can't say because of a few ninjutsu, then I'll just check you over to find it, but I promise not to touch it until we can get to an expert. He assured. Naruto groaned. I do not have I don't have any ninjutsu affecting how I speak, he babbled. Look, I just saw some weird shit down there and had to fight for my life a little. I dealt with it, and took my training more seriously, that's all. He lied insistently. I don't want to talk about it. He added. Is this why you cut yourself in class that day? Sakura asked with a frown. I don't want to talk about it. Naruto repeated himself. Well, what weird shit did you see? Sasuke asked. I do not want to talk about it. Naruto insisted. It was just gross and fucked up and I killed and there was blood, but I'm fine. He continued to insist. You killed more than a few rabid dogs. Kakashi guessed. He was confident the blonde's memories and words were no longer locked behind a few ninjutsu at least. There was a scorpion but nothing human, just some things that looked human. Naruto muttered. Kakashi frowned. Danzo has Bakemono? He asked suddenly. Naruto stiffened. What? No, I don't think so. He denied. You think you killed them all? Kakashi asked pointedly. Naruto scoffed and wished he hadn't. If he'd managed to bluff that the Jonin might have dropped it. I wish, he grumbled before he shook his head. Look, I don't think anyone can tell them what to do. He clarified. They could be directed. Kakashi pointed out. Naruto frowned. He wondered how much he should give away. I don't really know what Danzo has to do with anything, but were guarding the way out when I found it, and they took me to safety. He explained. Kakashi leaned back and crossed his arms. Interesting, he muttered. So just some freaky things, some that looked human. You had to learn how to kill fast, and then you took your training seriously? He asked. Something about the story still didn't quite add up, but it explained a lot. Sasuke frowned. He didn't buy it. The Uchiha wasn't sure how or why, but he could just tell that his blonde teammate was hiding something. He knew he couldn't just make an accusation on gut instinct though, so he'd watch and wait for proof to confront the blonde with. Sakura just sighed. Okay, that explains a lot. She confessed. Clearly she bought it. You really should have talked to someone. She pointed out. She had noticed how traumatized the Uzumaki clearly was. Naruto drooped and looked annoyed at the suggestion. Sure, I'll just contact my dead clan by summoning the Shinigami using a family heirloom. He grumbled sarcastically and Sakura winced. No one can actually summon the Shinigami. Sasuke retorted with rolled eyes. Kakashi sighed. Alright, we're a team. That means you should be able to talk to each other if no one else, got it? He lectured. Sasuke and Naruto both looked away and scoffed in unison. Sakura frowned as she worried about her team.